The OD in the chat. Thanks for casting my first game. Sorry, my nerves got the best of my fingers. A lot of good coverage for KSL. Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna tune into the VOD, but massive shout out to OD because it's always really exciting to see and hear about some returning players and returning people from StarCraft that haven't competed in a long time, coming back to the game. Always an exciting thing. Always. As we are going to be continuing this series, we're going to be starting this series as spawning in the top right hand corner of Royal Blood. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing Onside Gaming. It is Solar. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner of Royal Blood, we have his opponent. We have the other South Korean Zerg player representing Alpha X. It is RagnaroK. Oh boy, the ZvZs continue. Again, I was talking about it earlier, but basically all the top tier Zerg players are in this portion of the bracket. Dark is here, Dongraegu is here, Solar, RagnaroK, Miyamaka, Scarlet, everyone is down here. So expect a decent amount of ZvZs up until the finals, assuming that Dark does make it to the semis. So we'll see how this goes, as the winner of this series does move on to the semifinals of KSL. And things are starting off pretty chill. Both players have opened up with a hatch gas pool opener, so very economic and very standard openers. No one is really too afraid of each other, and it makes plenty of sense, especially from what we saw from Solar. Last game, he did go up against a 12 pool, and despite going for a hatch gas pool, he took minimal damage, he had great control, really nothing too much to be worried about. Meanwhile, RagnaroK is the kind of player that I look to be the aggressor. You know, he's kind of known for more of a creative outlook on the matchup and on StarCraft in general. He can be very aggressive, he can be very offbeat and off-meta, and off-tempo as well. So, yeah, I do expect a bit of an explosive ZvZ, kind of similar to last series as well, I guess. Kind of similar. As from here, we're just going to be droning on up. We should be seeing our third bases thrown down momentarily from our players as well, and we'll take note to see if anyone decides to skip the baneling nest of any kind. Royal Blood, you know, it isn't the largest map. You know, we're not talking about Ancient Cistern or Altitude, so it can be a little bit risky to skip that baneling nest, as Solar is going for his third base on time, and RagnaroK also sending out his drone for his third. You'll love to see it. Third bases are on time. No one has gone for any early lings. No one has gone for any early additional gases or roach warrens. And at the same time, baneling nests are thrown down as well. So no one is going to be cutting any corners. No one is going to try and skip the baneling nest. It's something that you can do, especially if you're assuming that your opponent isn't going to be aggressive with Ling Bane, or if you yourself are going to be aggressive with Lings and you're trying to like rush into roaches behind it. It can be risky though. It can be really risky trying to survive without banelings when you're up against a player with banelings. Ling Bane is pretty good. Is pretty good, and from here we are just kind of going to be skipping a lot of the early game and getting into the mid game. We can see and we can sometimes expect players to try and deny each other's third bases here off of Ling Bane, but for the time being no one has cut drones, so that's kind of telling us that I think both players want to be pretty passive and want to get into that, at least the roach stage of the game. Yeah. As we get 6 more drones for both players, yeah, we're good. No one wants to be aggressive. We're just chilling. We just want to expand. We just want to drone, and that's all a Zerg player really wants to do, you know? We just want to make drones, papi. Aye. +1 range is on the way. That's another important thing to take note of, is that neither one of these players is going for +1 carapace, which has been a really popular build in ZvZ in current meta for the past couple of months. We've seen a lot of these +1 carapace Ling Roacholins. We've seen Solar do it, we've seen Dark do it. I think we've even seen RagnaroK do it a couple of times as well. But it looks like, at least for this game, that's not going to be what's happening. Oh, no. As they're just going to be scouting each other, and yeah, it's the best kind of ZvZ. It's just we drone until roach. Smurge. As we're saturating our third bases, layers are on the way as well. Now that the layers on the way, yeah, we already have roach horns. Additional gases are going to be taken as well. There are, of course, different avenues that you can take, depending on what kind of lead you have. You can try and sneak out a Spire, for example, in the middle of Roach versus Roach. You can try and tech up even faster into Hydras, but I don't think that's what we're really going to be seeing from either one of these players. We'll see, we'll see. Oh, I'm gonna have to eat my words. As I say, we can sneak out Aspire, and that we're probably not gonna see that. Well, RagnaroK is the player to do so. Aspire is thrown down here immediately now that he's saturated all 6 of his gases, and he is gonna be looking to sneak out a couple of mutas. I assume it's only going to be enough for map control, so say like 5 or 6 mutas. With that, you can kill Overlords. You can also pick off a couple of drones. Meanwhile, we do have a little bit of a bailing run by here, trying to sneak on in, but oh, the control is good enough, and only 2 drones go down. Very nice reactions there out of Solar. Meanwhile, Solar also got Pneumatized Carapace. He has Overlord speed. With Overlord speed, he can go in with his Overseer, and there we go. He does scout the Spire. Immediately, Solar responds with a Hydrogen, so he will have some anti-air to work with, and the mutas aren't really going to be too much of an issue. RagnaroK can make a choice here. You know, he knows he got scouted. He saw the Overseer. So from here, I'm not going to say cancel the Spire, but he doesn't have to commit. He doesn't have to make too many mutas, if any, because he knows that Solar is going to be preparing. We can see he's sending his Overlords back home as well. He's making sure he loses as little as possible to these mutas. It's a very nice scout overall. RagnaroK opted not to go for Overlord speed, so because that he's going to be preserving that gas is being spent on mutas instead. He's going for his own scout to confirm what Solar is up to. Meanwhile, we have a massive Roach push, and because Solar pulled back all of his Overlords, he doesn't see this coming. He has very limited map vision, and this 4th base is going to go down. It's only going to take a couple more volleys, and there we go. The hatchery does end up falling, and RagnaroK, even though he didn't even kill any of the Overlords, he still got the same effect. He still was able to keep Solar in the dark and snipe that base. At the same time, I was saying that we probably aren't going to be getting... Oh, God, no! Get a big commitment of mutas. We don't even have 5 mutas. 5 mutas is enough to one-shot a drone. We only have 3. So again, RagnaroK really respecting Solar's scouting and really respecting his opponent to be able to have enough to deal with any amount of mutas. So RagnaroK only makes 3 just to threaten, just for a little bit of map control, and goes back into Roach Ravager. Oh. Meanwhile, Solar, with his Hydroden, you know, Hydras, they don't just shoot up, they can also be morphed into Lurkers, which is their main use in ZvZ. Lurker Den is on the way, so overall, Solar is going to have a superior army. It is going to be far more cost efficient than Roach Ravager if he can get there. If he can not only get into Lurkers, but also get into a Hive and get into Lurker upgrades. Before that happens, RagnaroK has a supply lead. You know, Solar is in the middle of teching, he's in the middle of transitioning, and Solar is looking to bust through him with nothing but pure Roach Ravager. He's going to try and get on top of the Lurkers. Lurkers are being morphed in behind this, but oh, we are getting closer and closer to them, and I don't know if they're really going to be able to finish in time. Ooh, one of them does get denied, but the other 2 are going to finish. Before that happens, the army of Solar is going down. Do we have detection? We don't need it. We have Biles. The Biles are going to be forcing the unburrow, and the Lurkers get picked off. GG gets called. RagnaroK takes game 1. A very tight timing there from RagnaroK. Again, you don't want to let those Lurkers get up and running, otherwise Solar will be slowing the game down and will be refining his army even more. Bit of a tight window, but RagnaroK, he hits it just in time and denies those Lurkers. Ooh. GG. Huh. How's intense, Bobby? It was a bit of a, you know, a slow burn to begin with, but things ramped up towards the end. You love to see it. As we're going to make sure we get every single caster in here. There we go. Beautiful. Again, a lot of people are going to be covering this. And now we're getting into game number 2. Overall, I do think that Solar played quite well. You know, he responded with the hydrogen, which makes plenty of sense, and he was trying to use that to kind of, in a way, launch himself into lurkers, which again does make a lot of sense as well. Unfortunately, when you do these things, it leaves you vulnerable. It leaves you very vulnerable to these Roach Ravager pushes. When you're kind of in the middle of transitioning into lurkers, that is when you are at your weakest as a Zerg player. So it can be really difficult to actually make it that far. If you do, then I mean, it's going to be a little bit easier for you. But alas, you couldn't make it there in the end. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Gresvan, we have the South Korean Zerg player currently down in this series representing On-Site Gaming. It is Solar. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Gresvan, we have his opponent representing Alpha X. It is RagnaroK. RagnaroK currently leading this series up 1-0 and looking to advance on to the semis. Again, RagnaroK, he is so good at his ZvZ. He's so aggressive as well. He knows his timings. And even little small moves from RagnaroK, like only making 3 mutas, is huge. Like the gas you preserve, because mutas are so gas intensive, but the gas you preserve just to make that many more roaches and ravagers and hit a faster timing is huge. So yeah, it was kind of cool how RagnaroK in a way orchestrated that game, kind of made his opponent dance to his music in a way, you know, going towards those lurkers, making himself vulnerable. Yeah, it was really cool to see. It was beautiful. As we're getting into game 2, and so far, once again, hatch gas pool from both players. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. To be honest, it can be really difficult to pull off 12 pulls or even 13 12s at the highest level of play, just because everyone is so damn good at defending and everyone's control is so good. That's why, you know, when you look at Raynor, Dark, Serral, RagnaroK, Solar, when they go up against each other, very rarely do you see early pull timings. Like, it usually isn't worth it and you just end up behind. And I say usually because, of course, maps do come into play, and in the middle of a series, you can catch your opponent off guard, especially in a longer series. But here, so far in this best of 3, just hatch gas pool all around, nothing too crazy. Similar to last game, we should be seeing third bases on time, but I wouldn't be surprised if this time we see a little bit more Ling Bane aggression and we don't have such a passive state up until like full base, 3 base saturation. Full 3 base saturation, that's what I meant to say. As we are getting into this, a massive shout out to Turkey Dano in the chat. Oh my god. Fala galera. Massive shout out to Turkey Dano, the cheesiest Protoss player in all of Latin America, maybe even all of the Americas. It's possible, it's possible. Much love, much love. It's great to see you back. Turkey Dano has been very active in the past, competing in the Latin American scene and in DreamHacks and all that good stuff. It's great to see you streaming again recently. Great to see you. Gracias, papi, gracias. Is this live? It is live. Yes. Tis not a rerun, tis not a replay cast. Welcome to the stream. We are mid-series here in Solar versus RagnaroK, and so far, again, everything has been pretty standard up until this point. Third bases are being thrown down. No one has skipped out on the Bailey nest either. No one's trying to rush into roaches or anything like that. Very similar to game number 1 overall. And speaking of game number 1, I'm curious to see, especially if Solar is going to try and mix some things up here, as we see a full Link Scout coming in. RagnaroK sips into the main base just to confirm no early lair, no early gases. Oh, and here we go. RagnaroK is actually the first to flinch. Last game we were talking about how +1 carapace was kind of really trendy in the most recent months here of StarCraft. So many players have been doing it. It's very powerful as well because this does minimize the effectiveness of banelings, and it's a very aggressive timing. We didn't see it last game, but we are going to be seeing it here as RagnaroK is working on carapace. So with this, you are going to be having a Ling Roach based army. Banelings are that less effective because they don't one-shot your Lings, and also your Roaches are going to be that much more robust against Ling surrounds as well from your opponents, as of course Carapace does apply to every single hit that your opponent's Lings have. So yeah, this is gonna be really interesting. It can be really difficult to prepare for here, as Solar himself is just kind of droning on up and going for a standard opener. Here we go. Roach production has commenced for RagnaroK. This is the first sign that he is going to be rushing across the map, looking to hit with his upgrade timing. So far, Solar hasn't really been able to see too much, and to be fair, there isn't much to see. The Ling is denied entry into the natural, and the Roaches are being banked up. Oh boy. The longer this goes unscouted, the scarier this is going to be. Solar is starting his own Roach production, though. He's not fully saturating his third base, so he recognizes that something is wrong. His Ling Scouts, even though he hasn't seen the Roach Warren, he sees the lack of drones here at the third. He does recognize that it's not fully saturated. There we go. He does see the Roaches as they come out, and now Solar's getting ready for the defense. He knows how committed this is. He throws down a Spine Crawler. Oh, he cancels. Oh my god. The confidence. Okay. I'm curious here. RagnaroK knows he got scouted. Yeah, RagnaroK's not pushing. He backs off. He's droning. Very similar to last game where RagnaroK got his Spire scouted, and because he got scouted, RagnaroK only made 3 Lings. Now here, his push gets scouted and he doesn't commit. He's respecting Solar. He knows that Solar would have enough to defend, so he's going to be chilling here back at home instead. So some mind games going on right now, a bit of a mental back and forth between the players as both of them are just going to be droning from here and transitioning into a longer game. We do see, of course, that lair on the way for RagnaroK. It was delayed for this, and as a result, Solar is going to have a stronger +2 timing. Up! Ooh. As again, +1 carapace is done, so the Banelings aren't as effective. RagnaroK is looking for a cancel on this fourth, and it looks like he's going to get it. There we go, does cancel the fourth base. A great way to make use of all these Lings he made earlier. Like, they had to get some kind of value, and canceling the fourth is definitely worth it. So RagnaroK is going to have a faster fourth, and now that he has his lair, I do like this. He's going to have worse Roaches, straight up. Like, his Roach speed is late, +2 range is going to be late as well. RagnaroK needs to catch up in another way because he was working on a pretty committed timing, and that way is going to be with this Spire. It's going to be with Mutas. Meanwhile, Solar is doubling down with his advantage. We see Burrow and Tunneling Claws on the way, so Solar is going to have a lot of uses with these Roaches. Even if we see a committed Muta Cloud take control of the map, these Roaches can counterattack. They can get into every single base. Oh boy. As the Overseer scouts everything, and this Overseer should be confirming the Roach Warren researching, so RagnaroK should be able to recognize that Burrowed Roaches are going to be possible here for Solar. They are going to be on the horizon. Solar is going to be pushing out here. Doesn't have as much supply to work with, but is looking to at least clean up these Overlords. Oh! Dodges there, a little bit too good. I love this from RagnaroK as well. He's patrolling the Overlords over the Roaches, so if Solar tries to bile, then he's going to like bile himself, or he's going to have to like dance here with the Overlords themselves. As Solar goes for a scout, confirms the Spire. We already have a Hydrogen on the way for Solar, so there we go. 10 Hydras are on the way to make sure he has plenty of anti-air. And upon seeing the Spire, he pulls back with his army. He should soon be pulling back with these Overlords as well. So we see another bit of a Ling run by here. Shouldn't really be doing too much. Maybe gets a Roach, if that. Yeah. Doesn't get a Roach. The Burrow gets confirmed. And this time RagnaroK, yeah, he only makes 4 Mutas, so only enough for map control to clear out these Overlords, to clear out all of this vision. As he is going to be looking to catch up in those upgrades, and +2 is now on the way. Still a big window here where Solar has +2 and RagnaroK doesn't, but Solar isn't going for any kind of major pushes right now. He's just clearing out Overlords with his own Hydras. Actually supply blocking RagnaroK. Oh. Here we go, Solar just dancing with the army. I don't really think he intends to commit here into the army of RagnaroK. I think Solar knows that his army is a little bit inferior, especially with these Hydras. Oh god. Meanwhile, did see a little bit of a counterattack. Two drones did go down, but RagnaroK was able to deal with that. Again, I don't think this is a fight that Solar really wants to take. He is forced back. And RagnaroK himself has been going for his own Hydras. The Hydra Den is done, Lurker Den is on the way. So both players are looking to get into Hydra Lurker Viper at some point. Before that happens, Solar is still looking to find a way in. He does have Borrowed Roaches headed towards these mineral lines. 5 drones going down already. RagnaroK trying to keep up here with the aggression. Oh, as he's actually pulled out of position a little bit here. Solar pushing up this ramp, but oh, yeah, nada. We don't want to push up, Papi. He is forced back at the same time. The Roaches do unburrow on the right-hand side. They're going to be able to take down this Spine Crawler and a couple of drones. RagnaroK's economy is taking a little bit of a hit here, as RagnaroK is actually the first player to get into Hive, and this is scary. +3 is on the way. The Lurker upgrades are on the way as well. RagnaroK is going to be able to get into his late game army a little bit faster here. He doesn't have any Hydras yet. Oh. Here we go. Solar's going to be committing with this push. Just forcing a reaction out of RagnaroK. Actually landing a couple of those biles. Again, just looking to trade, just looking to dance with the army, buying time for his own Hive to finish. But then that transition point is already here. 16 Hydras are on the way. They can morph into those Lurkers ASAP, and once RagnaroK has those Lurkers, I imagine he is going to be pushing out across the map. Ooh, Solar taking some biles to the face. I don't think this is the fight that we really want to be taking here. Solar losing quite a bit, and he has to preserve these Hydras. That's the most worrisome thing. Here we go. Solar getting a little bit of momentum, pushing on forward. The rally getting caught out a little bit. At the same time, the Mutas are harassing across the map, just applying some pressure. Solar is forced back. He didn't lose any Hydras. But this is it. This is the moment. 11 Lurkers. Seismic Spines is research here for RagnaroK, which means he does have Lurker range. And he's going to make use of this here. He does end up burrowing. There is no way towards the natural, but Solar doesn't care. He's headed towards the third. And yeah, now it's going to be go time for RagnaroK. Behind this, Vipers are being produced. They're a great way to counter these Lurkers, whether it's with Blinding Clouds or even Abducts. But it looks like RagnaroK is going to take this with a bit of a slower approach, unfortunately. He's working on his own Vipers, so he wants to turtle up. He wants to just receive and absorb all of these pushes. At the same time, he goes for a little bit of a roach run by. Gets 3 drones. Not bad. But despite rushing into these Lurkers, really, he's only going to be using them to defend, to hold onto his bases. At least until he gets his own Vipers out. And there we go. They are out. Going to slowly gather that energy. At the same time, another roach run by here at the 4th base. Ugh. RagnaroK losing a couple more units. Now, because RagnaroK's drone count is lower, it does mean that his army supply is going to be slightly higher. Bear that in mind. Only slightly. As we're just going to be backing up. Hydras, Lurkers on the way for both players. Oh, the best kind of ZvZ. Kappa. And this is late game ZvZ. Hydra, Lurker, Viper. You know, it's going to be a battle between the spellcasters. Who can abduct who can deny who. Who borrows first? Oh! Oh, and this is not the fight to take for RagnaroK. He's pushing into a concave. We have a couple of abducts coming in, but RagnaroK, he drops 30 supply just like that. And that may just be it here. He's going for a counterattack as we speak, and we are fighting into a choke point, but RagnaroK lost almost every single Lurker. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, and that's a kill, not a cancel on his 5th base. Oh, at the same time, the Roach counterattack actually kills the 4th of Solar. Not too bad, but Solar has the advantage. GG gets called, and Solar takes game 2. Oh. Just like that, one bad fight and RagnaroK loses the majority of his lurkers, and that's it. Lurkers take a long time to rebuild, especially if you don't have any Hydras ready on hand, and just like that, Solar, he goes immediately for that counterattack, and now we're going for the ace match. Oh. Aye. What happened game number one? What happened game one was Solar was kind of faked into taking up too quickly. Solar was killed as he was trying to morph in lurkers, as he was trying to transition from roaches into Hydra lurker. Just at that timing, RagnaroK pushed in and actually caught a lot of those lurkers as they were morphing in as well. So RagnaroK was able to hit a pretty crisp timing in game one. Here in game two, RagnaroK did a great job at teching and at like rushing into lurkers as soon as possible, but yeah, just a really bad fight is what it came down to there. Pushing into a concave, pushing down a ramp as well. Oh, brutal. But now we are headed into our ace match. We're going to be getting into game number 3. And game number 3 is going to be on altitude. Interesting. Very interesting. So a much larger map, and I worry because it's such a large map. This does mean that it's honestly a pretty good map for mutas. Mutas can get a lot of map control, and even if you're preparing for them with Hydras, because there's just so much area to maneuver around, you can avoid them and you can do quite a lot of damage. There's also a lot of bases, so we we could see another late game scenario. But here we go. We're going all the way into game number 3, and spawning in the bottom left hand corner of altitude, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing On-Side Gaming. Tying up that series in game number 2, it is Solar. And spawning in the top right hand corner of altitude, we have his opponent. We have the other South Korean Zerg player representing Alpha X. It is RagnaroK. Oh boy. Here we go. Altitude, the largest and most open of all the maps in the map pool. Because of that, engagements in the middle of the map can be really scary, just because there are so many angles and so many different high grounds as well to take advantage of. Things can get really messy if we do end up seeing that happen. Otherwise, again, there's a lot of bases to be taken, a lot of area to traverse. Oh boy, and no one has opted to go for an early pool. So standard openers all around, hatch gas pool. You'll have to see it. It's all we've seen throughout the entire series. RagnaroK a little bit paranoid and actually preparing himself to defend against something like a spine rush. So of course his overall SimCity is going to be a little bit safer, a little bit better. Meanwhile, Solar just going for a standard opener. Nothing too crazy. And yeah, we'll see how we get into this. We've seen, like, I guess a variety so far in this series. Like, honestly, not too often do we see lurker versus lurker in ZvZ. Usually the game ends before that happens, more often than not. So it's always a treat when we do get it. Always a treat. Yeah, I wonder how we're going to get into this ace match. You could argue that maybe Solar has a little bit of momentum coming into this, especially after taking game number 2. I'm sure he's feeling a lot confident as well, just because even though he got into his lurkers a little bit later and it took him a little bit longer, he was able to just take a better fight and control his army far better than RagnaroK there. So I'm sure that probably gives him a little bit of confidence to maybe not do anything crazy, and I don't expect him to be the aggressor as a result. But we'll see. We'll see, as our third bases are being taken on time here for Solar. Should be seeing it from RagnaroK as well, only a couple of seconds later, so not the biggest of deals. It is thrown down as well. RagnaroK just going to be scouting across the map with his 4 lanes, just confirming the timing of the 4th base, sorry, of the 3rd. Chilean. And yeah, neither player even opts to skip their Bailey Nest either. Their Bailey Nests are thrown down as well, so no one is going to be cutting any corners. No one is going to be skipping, going straight into those roaches. We're just going to be droning here and, yeah, having a pretty normal opener for the ace match. I guess the biggest divergent point that we did see last game was whether or not RagnaroK tries to go for +1 carapace again. I doubt it, especially because it is a ground-based push. Because we're on altitude, it takes that much longer to move out across the map. It's that much easier for your opponent to scout you as well, so it's a really risky thing to do on this map. Unless you're going for something like a Nidus all-in or a way to kind of counteract how large this map is. So I doubt we're going to be seeing that again from RagnaroK, but we'll see. Like, just because it's unlikely, I mean, maybe that's why you do it, you know, because your opponent least expects it. Oh. As we're just going to be droning from this point on for both players. +1 range on the way from Solar, as we've been seeing from him the entire series. RagnaroK should be starting his own as well. There we go. I was like, there we go. Lots of range does start for RagnaroK, so everything's looking quite normal here. What isn't normal is that RagnaroK is actually threw down his Roach Warren very early. I actually didn't catch that. The Roach Warren's already done, and we already have roaches on the way. RagnaroK is looking to cut drones, Papi. He's looking to push. He can't. I was curious as to why +1 range was late, and it was because he only made it just for the scout. He cancels +1 range. He's going all in. Let's go, Papi. Oh my god. The Overlord is being pushed away by the Queen, and it will not see these roaches. Oh, it barely catches a glimpse of them. Meanwhile, here we go. Solar, he now realizes something is amiss. We have a couple of spine crawlers being thrown down at the third base. I don't know if that's the wisest of choice. I don't even think we're going to be headed towards the third, as the first Baneling is going to be going down as well. Oh boy, here we go. The Queens are being brought to the front lines. Roaches are being produced from Solar. The first Baneling is going to get denied. And the Roaches are going to try and get a surround here on Solar's army. Banelings up. For the time being, they haven't connected yet. And the Spine Crawler has finished with these reinforcements. Is it going to be enough? The Lings are trying to get a bit of a surround here, but Solar has also bought a lot of time. And he may just have a little bit too much. The Lings are being cleaned up, and RagnaroK is running out of steam. This is the problem with altitude. It takes so long to reinforce across the map. It takes so long to really get any momentum. And Solar, he did a great job scouting, a great job responding. The Spine Crawler did come into play in the end. It does unbar, it does come here to the front lines. And now we only have Lings coming from RagnaroK. He does catch a couple of roaches. Not too bad, to be honest. Pretty good trade overall there, but again, Solar, he has 10 workers on RagnaroK. He has the upgrades, he has the tech, he's got everything. And RagnaroK is going to try and transition. He's going to try and drone. He's going to try and throw down a Spine Crawler, but I don't know, mate. I think RagnaroK's only hope right now is to threaten the third of Solar and keep Solar at home. And that's what he's doing with all these Lings. RagnaroK, he's making 20 more Lings behind this. I think it's just necessary to just even live. But he just taps out. He's not even going to try. GG gets called, the all-in fails, and Solar takes game number 3. GG. Very ambitious move from RagnaroK to try to go for the all-in there. Again, it was scouted in time. It was scouted as the roaches were coming out. As soon as that happened, as soon as the roaches started moving across the map, Solar, he did throw down his Spine Crawler. He stopped droning. He was making roaches. He had Banelings as well, and his Baneling control was insane. Insane in a way where we didn't really get to see a big Baneling connection, but it was zoning away those Lings for long enough for reinforcements to come out, for roaches to pop out, for the defense to just get that much more solid for Solar. So, GG. GG, well played. Solar makes it to the semifinals, where he's going to be waiting for his next opponent. Oh, and we already have it. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you want to have a look at the bracket yourself. We have updates coming in. We may as well go over them.